You're on.
Okay, with it being after 7 o'clock, call the July meeting to order.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is minutes, and they've been reviewed and read. Motion.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Right.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next order is businesses NACC 196 small project, Osgood Street, Edgewood Retirement Community.
Go away.
Good.
Plan and
Good evening. Bob Capola, Edgewood Retirement Community. We have our small home project that we had been before the planning board, the zoning board, et cetera. We have a sewer force main that we're setting up on that project, and we are scheduled to go to the manhole that's in the front of Meadows Drive and Caroline Way. That's been the plan all along. And after looking at the project, we're here to request permission to run along that grass edge of the pavement. And when you get down, you can see that circle that's dotted line that goes around that area. That's the 100-foot setback for the wetland. And so we're requesting to be able to run that utility down through there. Existing, there is gas, electric, CCTV, telephone, et cetera, that runs down there. I guess originally when they built the project, they put that in. And then you can see there's about 10 or 12 spaces that encompass that as well when they did that expansion to the meadows. And what we had done originally when we first started the project, we put in our control, our hay bales, et cetera, silt fence, all the way down that existing dirt road there, the easement to get to Half Mile Hill, and that currently exists as it is. So that was our request before you this evening.
Joe?
So you're in the grassed area, you're in existing sewer manhole, that's where it's gonna go to gravity. Your force main, the pump is where? Is it it's up near the building?
Yeah, it's on the, as I'm looking at it, Joe, it's the lower left-hand corner. It's marked out as new pump station. That's where the sewage lift station's going. And then we'll come out that road that we're putting in and then come down along that grass border.
So the reason why I asked that is, the pump station itself is gonna be the deepest part of your project, not
Correct.
the force main, but you anticipate you might have to de-water when they put what are you using, like an E1 pump?
Yeah, the pumps are already in.
Oh, but you're gonna be replacing, why is it saying new pump station?
New pump station is in.
this is a new
Oh.
building.
It's a new building.
Okay, gotcha.
That's the new building.
Okay.
Yep, sorry about that, yep.
So the new
That's
pump station is
facility.
it's already there, it's not part of this filing?
That's correct.
Gotcha, okay, I'm all set, thank you.
I have no questions.
Just a quick question. How deep are you gonna be digging?
We're going to be approximately 5 feet deep.
Okay. Deb?
I was going to ask Jen.
Is there going to be dewatering, and should there be?
I don't think you anticipate any
No.
No,
dewatering
we
in
don't
that
anticipate
location.
any.
And the rest of
Okay.
their work is outside of jurisdiction. This whole project, you did an ORAD quite a while back, and all of this work for the new building and the pump station and all of that is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. They're actually down gradient of that channel that runs out of the preschool and then all through the rest of the Edgewood project. So, I mean, it's really a impossible, thing that they, in addition to having the erosion control already there, it's very unlikely that this could have any effect on the swale.
Okay, thank you.
Motion?
I move that we consider this a small project under the letter D, and that's my motion right now.
Need a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
So then I move that we approve small project 196 with the following conditions: no stockpiling overnight in the buffer zone, and a post-construction inspection.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. You're all set, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jen.
Next one is RDA 201 Sutton Street.
No, I should be able to get it up there as long as this will open for me. I think I have to download it, but just take a second. You can give, you want to give me those, that would be great. Just close out my text messages here. And is it the second one, site plan? that
Yep,
it is?
that one, yeah.
And what sheet would you like?
We can start with the first one. That's the existing conditions. Good evening. For the record, my name is Philip Henry with Civil Design Group. We are the civil engineers on this project. The project is located at 201 Sutton Street, and it's an existing structure. And the applicant proposes to repave their parking lot and to bring into conformance ADA access in terms of parking spaces, pedestrian routes, et cetera. The actual land disturbance is limited to, it's about 19,000 square feet, which is the asphalt area, the parking lot, which as you can see on that plan is, it's divided into the front area along Sutton Street, and then there's a driveway along the left side or the east side of the building, and then towards the rear of the lot there is an auxiliary lot back there. So as I mentioned, the development program includes milling and overlaying, and when I say that, they're really just essentially milling and overlaying the top 2.5 to 3 inches to the subgrade, and then just bringing that grade up with new binder and new top coat. And in the process, just making sure we design that to comply with ADA access, vehicular spaces, and pedestrian route. Although we don't anticipate a lot of runoff from the site, and it's a fairly minimal job, it's probably a 1-week job, we did show erosion control along the downstream side, exterior portions of the disturbed area proximate to the lake, and then the northerly portion of that, the pond, and the northerly section of that pond turns into riverfront area. So while the asphalt area is within the 100-foot wetland area and also the 200-foot riverfront area, we don't anticipate any increase in impervious area, and in fact, we would just consider this a maintenance task. So I'm happy to answer any specific questions. And I would also note that the existing drainage, which was installed in the late 90s, at the upgrade of this building, that's proposed to remain intact. And just as a follow-up, Jen, there are hoods in the catch basins. They're metal hoods.
And were you able to find any evidence that they were maintained?
I did ask the question. The owners of the site, as I was told, do maintain the property, although they were unable to produce any receipts or maintenance reports since you asked for that this morning. So, but once I do receive that, I will forward, and we're happy to take a condition.
Yeah, right, okay. It could be conditioned that they either provide the most recent ones or just go clean them.
Just clean them, yeah. I mean,
Yep.
that's the reality. So the existing basins, you're gonna be protecting the silt sacks. I think I saw one note
Yep.
down there that you're gonna do that. How many basins are there?
There's 2 catch basins on site, and there's actually a catch basin right at the property line. It kind of straddles the property line, so, but we call for typical of all, so there'll be a silt sack installed in all of them.
So would you say for ADA compliance, I think ultimately I'm interpreting that to mean that the grade is gonna come up higher than it is now?
Yeah, usually when we redevelop sites to get ADA compliance, usually the sites are in distress, so that there's the horizontal separation between the concrete and asphalt are greater than what's allowed, and there's also settlement over time. So ultimately, what happens is we bring the site up essentially, and we're only talking a few inches here. What we wanted to do is make sure we didn't cut into that sub-base.
And so my question is are you going to alter any of the drainage patterns?
No, we're not altering any drainage. We were able to drain and maintain all the watersheds on site.
Okay, I'm all set.
Did you locate any monitoring wells on this property at all?
No, I don't believe so.
There was some years back, there was a chemical spill next door at 221,
Okay.
and most of the adjacent properties, including 26 across the way, had monitoring wells. You didn't have any though, huh?
No, we didn't see, is 221 Clean Harbors? Or is that the
Yes.
other side?
I'm looking at an aerial photo, it's the
Yeah,
property.
Clean Harbors on the right, yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they
Yeah, we were not aware, we did not locate any.
didn't find any, okay, all set, thanks.
Well, one question. If the contract takes a week to do this there farm, you're gonna make any money? The other thing, you said you're gonna raise the grade. And that's not gonna affect the runoff?
No.
No. So by, how far are you gonna raise the grade?
We're only talking at most a few inches at the highest point. So essentially what we do is we establish what first floor elevation is, and then we make sure we're accessible to the accessible spaces, which are within the parking lot islands. And then once we establish we're accessible, then we catch up. So we're talking, I think at most 6 inches of fill in the deepest parts, but we're substantially maintaining the grade. The reason why it lacked accessibility was because the site was in disrepair in terms of the asphalt. There was numerous cracks, there was heaving. So not only do we try to, if you look at ADA regs, not only is there horizontal and vertical constraints, but there's also maintenance constraints as well. So that's really what drove this redevelopment.
How many, are you putting 2 in?
There is 4, actually.
Four, right.
There's 2, bookending the internal islands, and then there's 2 off to the right. And those 2 in the middle island are van accessible.
Well, the reason I'm asking, because you're gonna raise the grade of the parking lot, so where the catch base is gonna be in a hole?
No, luckily, all the catch basins were in a low point, and we were able to drain and maintain those watersheds.
Okay. I'm all set.
I have a follow-up question on that, because it occurred to me. You talked about the differential settlement and cracking and whatnot. That typically is a sign of bad base and not, not the wearing surface. And so you're going to be grinding 2.5, 3 inches, I think you said. Did you, any core samples? Do you know how much pavement is even out there?
We did not.
I'd be surprised if it's more than 3.
Yeah, I think it's 1.5 over 2. And we've been told that it has not been repaired in quite some time. So I agree with you. It's typically a sign of poor base, but I think this original plan was approved back in the 80s, and I think it was redeveloped in the 90s. But I think the top course and the binder have seen its life as well.
I asked that question. You don't expect to get into blowouts. We go right through the binder, and now you have large areas of soil-based material exposed.
I mean, we certainly don't expect that, but if that does occur, then we'd have to obviously maintain it, and if it rises to the level of notifying Jennifer, we certainly will.
Why would you just build the whole parking lot and then grade it? Then you don't need any material.
Well, that's essentially what we're doing. We're all indications point that the top course in the binder
Right out, yeah.
need repair, and then we're building on top of that subbase. But we didn't want to cut. We didn't want to cut and disturb and destabilize the earth. But we're filling on top of that pavement course
With what?
with subbase as
You're gonna
needed.
put sub-base on top of,
On top of
existing
subbase.
pavement?
No, on top of existing subbase.
so then you are gonna mill the whole parking lot.
No, I think you guys, nomenclature, you're gonna, the goal is
Take the
to,
pavement off and put new pavement in.
Exactly.
not sub-base, but more
So it's not-
binder.
Yeah, I guess
binder
base
material.
below the binder at those 6 inches or 4 inches where needed, we were going to compact that and then put binder and top coat on that.
Okay, so you are gonna mill or reclaim the whole parking lot.
Gonna take out the existing pavement.
Right. That's what I'm saying, but he's not saying that.
I know, he began by saying, his words led me to believe that what they were doing is gonna mill and pave. That
Yes.
they were gonna leave some of the existing pavement in place, just mill it down, and that led me to say, well, why are you adjusting the grades up?
Right.
You know, it didn't make sense.
But I'm still not clear, because I think that is your intention, is to not get down into the subbase,
So
leave some pavement in there.
Pavement, I would consider the pavement thickness, let's call it 12 inches, right? So you have 8 inches of subbase,
No.
and then you have binder.
Not the pavement,
No,
pavement thickness
no.
is actual pavement.
Okay, so,
Before there
okay,
is the subgrade.
so using the nomenclature of the pavement, like the 1.5 over 2,
It'd be
or,
like if you're getting 3 inches.
we're taking all that out, and we're putting all new
Okay,
pavement in.
that's what I wanted to.
So you are gonna
verify.
be into
So it's almost
gravel,
full.
exposed gravel.
Top,
over the
top of
full-
the gravel, top of the gravel.
Okay, it's not completely full depth reconstruction,
No, no,
because you're not taking the gravel
Subgrade.
base out.
Pretty flat up there, though.
that's
But
correct.
you're leaving the gravel base, taking the pavement out.
Yes.
Leaving the gravel base in, and then you're gonna regrade that gravel base
Yes,
and fill in some areas where there's been settlement.
yes,
Well,
yes.
that's why I said if you reclaim you're reclaiming the whole parking lot.
Yeah.
Leave the stuff there and grade with that. It's the same as, but instead of, it means save you a ton of money, you want the truck out. Grade with that.
Okay,
It's gonna, you know, you reclaim it.
Exactly,
grind it
yeah.
into 3/4 stone.
yes, exactly, yes. If it's
So
suitable,
Grade
yes,
with that.
yes.
Okay, just as long as we know what we're doing. Okay, Deb.
I learned a lot from this discussion. Thank you very much. I have no further questions.
We've got no further questions at this time.
Okay, motion?
It'd be a -2 and a -3 riverfront buffer zone. Pre and post inspections for the, erosion control in and erosion control out, and then just the catch basin cleaning requirement.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next one is 242-1704, 189 Willow Street. Request to continue to August 9th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's
Quickly on discussion, I've been saying this every time it comes up.
So I
Waiting on a
spoke-
plan?
I was on site with the engineer producing that plan at a different project today, and he said he would be out there shooting those wetlands on Saturday. He was planned to be there on Monday, but it rained.
Okay.
That was
It's going to rain Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to rain Saturday,
straight from the
too.
horse's mouth, so
Yep.
just saying.
Going to have to work in the rain.
You gotta buy my raincoat.
Might not happen again, I guess is what it comes down to.
Man.
242-1710, 0 Main Street, request to continue till August 9th.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Isn't there another one, Jen?
Continuance,
more.
it's the COCs.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the OOCs.
Stevens Street, 242-1708, request to continue to 8/9.
Second.
So moved. Mr. Chairman, that's in there, it looks like 3 times, or twice
Twice.
anyway.
Twice.
There's 2 different
707,
filings, yeah.
1708 and 1707.
2 houses, 2 different filings.
Gotcha.
Yeah, lot 1 and 2.
Right.
So we,
They're both continued.
okay. And Hay Meadow is also continued.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
How'd you make out?
I didn't hear.
You didn't
I
hear?
left a message. Oh, no, wait, I did talk to him. I'm sorry. Their engineer was just out there either yesterday or today, and they weren't going to have a statement and all that ready for the meeting, so
Okay.
I asked them to continue. I'm sorry, who moved that? It was,
Doug and
Doug
Deb
and I
seconded.
second.
Each time, both,
Got it.
both numbers.
First one on the list is 242-1629, outlet structure update.
this was a requirement of the order of conditions that when they had this design finalized, that they would present it to you, and you're there tonight to do that.
For the record, my name is Tanya Marchand. I'm with RCG. Before we get into the outlet update and the head wall structure, I just wanted to give you an update on the wear structure installation. I know you saw the dewatering plan. I think Jen had shared it with you. We are waiting for our cofferdam to be installed, and once that happens, then we can install the pumps that will go in to pump down the groundwater and to dewater that area where the wear structure is going to go in. We're probably about a week and a half behind our schedule that we had submitted to you, but we anticipate that cofferdam will go in either Friday or Monday. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Clark from DCI to give you an update on where we are with.
Okay. Again, I'm Mike Clark with Design Consultants, and we basically have two structures on this to be completed on the job. One is the outlet control structure, the plant's here, and then the transition structure. I just wanted to take you quickly through the outlet control structure. The box itself hasn't changed, but as Tanya said, the plan is to use a steel sheet cofferdam to cut the water off at this location here. And prior to the installation of the cofferdam, the turbidity curtain will be installed. Okay, the sheet pile will be put in, and then in the four corners of the proposed excavation, we'll advance some perforated pipe so that we can dewater as we go down through the excavation. And get a stable base. And once the stable base is in, the structure will be put in, we'll backfill and put the riprap in. The dewatering is set up in two mechanisms. One is in the event we need to move water out of the pond again, we will pump from the pond into this manhole that's located right here that was installed previously through the 18-inch pipe and maintain the flows in the stream. The water from the dewatering side of this will be pumped into a frac tank for settling, and then out of the frac tank and into the back into the same manhole. So the waters won't be mixed during pumping, but after treatment, they'll be mixed together. So that's the outlet control structure. And are there any, before I move forward, are any questions on that? Fantastic.
I do have, so, I mean, this is a dam, we know that, and you guys have been very, very cognizant to the dangers associated with what's going on out there. When you're doing stormwater stuff, you're typically going to be putting it on a good stone base. You're building your structure around it, you're connecting your pipes and so forth. But when you're in a dam structure, especially up near the headworks, it's that migration of water through that stone base and working its way underneath the pipe becomes a problem over time. How you, once the cofferdam comes out, how are you going to deal with groundwater seepage moving
So
through that?
what the process is, you install the cofferdam, okay? We're using steel sheet piles. They'll really slow the water down. There will be some slight leakage between the joints. They have a kind of a ball-shaped joint like this, so when one pile goes in, the other one comes down in and connects through there. But it will drastically cut the water off from the pond side, and okay? And then we'll dewater this location in the upland side, do the construction, but before the sheet piles are pulled, you allow the water table to come back up. So you're not having that issue with the area having to have that seepage beforehand. You let the water rise up slowly, and then you remove the sheet piles.
But I'm not talking about so much during construction, I'm talking about over time, because the integrity of the embankment, the dam itself, has to be a permanent thing. So before you pull the sheet piles, it seems like that backfill of that structure has to be almost like a grout or a heavy clay material that's going to not move water through it over time.
The soils out so the soils in the area are sands and gravels. Okay, we're recompacting with sands and gravel, so you're going to maintain the basic same hydrologic regime. The box and the joints, so the joints between the outlet control structure and the pipes, those have butyl collars on them, so they're not that's a watertight joint, so where the pipe slips into it. Follow what I'm saying?
Right.
So you're not having water, groundwater going into the outlet control structure.
And you're not breaching the integrity of the dam embankment itself.
No, I mean, this dam here, when we call it a dam, you have to remember it's hundreds of feet wide. So it's not, it's different than if it was just a small embankment dam. That seepage happens on a long distance, and it's not like it's a dam that was, 10 feet wide at the top, and then, the water is elevation 10, and the bottom of the dam is at elevation 0. You don't have that kind of thing going on. So this, and what's going to happen here is that you're only going to have this water in this area during construction is only going to be depressed for a short period of time. So we're basically, with the backfill we're proposing, the sand and gravel, we're replicating what's there. Okay, so we don't anticipate any seepage problems.
That's
The inlet area here is-
That's the backfill of the excavation for the
Yeah,
structure.
For the structure.
Again, you're not into the integrity of the dam embankment itself.
Not, in the short term, when we do the excavation, yes, but just in this area, we're not, and we're backfilling, so we're restoring the integrity of the dam or what was there following construction. Okay, they'll be compacted, there'll be no loose materials, it'll be basically the same situation you had at the old outlet structure, we're just right here, we're just moving it down there.
I can show you the photos of that area now, Joe, if that helps.
Yeah, if you could.
As soon as I can get back,
Yeah, that would be
getting
helpful.
booted out.
And again, you've done a great job up to this point, and I'm sure you're going to from this point forward as well, but I'm always concerned, my study concentration in college was, in fact, earthen embankment dams, so
No, and
it's what I love. And the integrity of that embankment isn't just as simple excavation and compaction using rudimentary engineering practices of construction. It truly is an engineered soil condition with, certain amount of clay content, and it can't have any permeability.
So you have to, so that's not accurate, okay? So you have to remember that this impoundment used to go all the way to the transition structure. And then when they built the mill building here, we had the collapse in the 4, they extended the pipes this way. So that's why you have the two different construction types. We had the pipes that fill, the steel pipes, and we have the brick chambers here. You can see them in the plan there. So the dam used to end at this location, right here. And then,
Where is that on the plan?
right in this location.
Okay,
Right
okay.
here.
This is the inlet.
This is where the new.
This is where the new inlet will be.
New one.
That's the inlet?
That's the
Yeah.
inlet.
All right, I'm sorry, I thought that was a transition structure. But what you have to remember is historically, okay, this whole length of pipe in this area here, okay, this was all filled after the dam was constructed to make additional usable space for this mill building here. And so they put steel pipes in because that was the easiest construction material at the time, and they connected in the same location where we're doing the transition. You went from the brick construction to the steel. The steel failed because it corroded, all right? The outlet of this is still significantly downstream, okay? So is it a dam? Yes, but it's not your typical dam. It's not a narrow dam. It's 100 feet, has 100 feet top with buildings on top of it. It's very similar to just a rerouted stream situation, okay, practically, but I understand what your concern is, okay?
So I'm convinced it's not so much of a conservation issue, other than one of the things we charge ourselves with is minimizing future impacts. And, if the
Yeah.
control of the flow net through the sub-layer and down into that stone and gravel, and it continues to move over time, that over time, there'd be another impact at the headworks there. And that's what I'm concerned with.
Yeah, and based on my background in geotechnical engineering and the situation here, I don't see that happening. You're using sand and gravel. The whole existing area is sand and gravel. Water does flow through it. but it's not like, it's really not like a dam with a big head on it, you know, a big difference in water pressure like this over a short distance. It's a wide distance with actually a pretty small head on it, so the flow net has got a gradual, you know, a gradual surface, and not like when you hit a core of a dam where the flow net, you know, it hits here and then the flow
wants
net
to
goes
move
straight
through.
down. Yeah, it's not that type of situation, so I understand what you're,
And you're satisfied that- with what you're
yeah,
proposing? Okay.
I'm very satisfied with what's happening.
I'm all
here.
set.
Okay.
The last time we spoke, one of the things I asked about was preventative measures, observation, inspection ports, cameras being lowered into the area, some way to interdict, not necessarily prevent, but detect problems prior to the point of failure. Did you take any measures to put any type of early warning system in place, or anything that would tell us something's happening before the earth caves in?
Yeah, so my understanding is, and Tanya, you can connect me if I'm wrong, is there's going to be some video cameras put in.
Yes, we've looked at the cameras, we intend to install those into the culverts, we can monitor.
What's the timetable for the installation of cameras?
That would be after we finish up this head wall and we clean out as we go in, we need to clean out the pipes again, and at that point we would install them.
Okay. So,
And then the other thing that's going to happen, this is a pretty good segue to the next drawing,
okay.
is the transition structure itself is not going to be buried. It's going to be open.
Okay.
So it'll be able to visibly access the pipe in this location, in the area in this location. So instead of having, as we did before, we had we can only get to it from the outlet
Right.
and the inlet situation, now there's a place in the center. So, is any other questions on the first part of this? All right. So what we were asked to do by our client was, we looked at several alternatives for doing the connection, and what RCG thought was it would be nice to leave it open. We'd have some flowing water there, so it would become a feature, a landscape feature. So we did some analysis. We looked at we basically looked at the 100-year flow, the PMP flow of 310 CFS, and we were concerned with erosion in that transition area. So what is happening is this plan's very busy, but let me just get my eyes set. So we have the pipes coming in this direction here, right? Yes. The pipes from the pond come in here. And here's that brick head wall, okay? So what the analysis has shown us is that during the 100-year storm, we have some pretty good flows in there. So there is, to resist the erosion, we're using a 1-ton stone, okay? Was a stone from the Army Engineering Handbook that we looked at. And the bottom of this area with the 1-ton stone will be 4 feet thick. So it'll be layered stone and very resistant to erosion. And then the side slopes will also be the same stone, the 1-ton stone. So it's good size stone. If you look at it, a cubic foot of stone is roughly 150 to 170 pounds a cubic foot. So we're talking between a 2 and 3 foot diameter stone that's going to be placed in here. The stone's angular. It'll be placed, one at a time. And then the other concern was with the 100-year storm. This is we have this culvert here that has a tailwater on one end where the flood is, and then at this bottom end here, we have a headwater at the start of it, and then the bottom end here where it empties into this transition area, it has a tailwater. So we evaluated the tailwater section, and we had to, I want to make sure I've got the contours right now. All right. We had to maintain, that elevation is elevation 86 for the 100-year storm. So we brought the stone up to elevation 87 to give us 1 foot of freeboard in the 100-year stone, and the whole channel is lined with stone. So you can see the stone in here, And then in here, we've got some grading we have, that has to be done. There's a small, up at a higher elevation to fix the landscape, there's a retaining wall that's going in above here. The area will be secured with guardrail, and I'm not sure if we're putting fence in at this point, but it'll be secured and safe. And then the next step after it's constructed is to finalize the landscape plantings. That hasn't been done yet. So, in this construction, to minimize the amount of water that's, getting into the outlet structure, we envision, this is going to happen right after we do the installation of the outlet control structure. We can't have any water coming into this section, so the water will have to be bypassed in the existing pipe arch culverts. Will have to have a small sandbag dam put in, so to make sure the water doesn't come back towards us, make sure it drains downhill. So that's basically the general plan. We're going to, for the retaining wall, you can see what that's going to look like with the large precast blocks. So any questions on this part of it?
Question of Jen. By making this a feature, landscape feature, there's no chance that over time that itself becomes a future wetland that we debated?
No, it's all going to be it's hardscape.
It's hardscape, it's everything.
So it's an armored channel, it's part of the drainage feature.
Yeah, so we have a foot above with stone, okay? And then down all the way through the channel and back up is stone to contain the 100-year storm. There's a bunch of different advantages with some cost savings in it, but it was also, going to Mr. Manzi's point is allowed us to get another inspection area in the site too to look at that. So it'll have some. Not only will you'll see the structure itself, but you'll have a little bit of historic interest. You'll see, a little bit of the brick arches and things like that. So. We thought it was a pretty good solution, and, one of the things that happened in doing this is that the applicant's given up some, workable area too, so to put this in. So it's, it's a pretty well conceived, in my opinion, it's a pretty well conceived. We considered the flows, the flood levels. There's concerns about landscaping, we've considered those, and then public safety, there'll be, guardrails and fences to make it safe in accordance with the regulation.
All set.
Also, yeah, also.
Al, Doug?
No,
Motion?
Do we need a motion?
No.
This is an
This is an update.
This is an update.
They were, it was more for you to have questions or concerns or send them back to the drawing board if you saw there were issues, but if you're good, I think.
Procedurally, it should be a modification to the existing order of conditions to accept these plans into the record.
Technically, the plans were required as part of the condition, but if you want to accept them into the record, you can do that.
I would, I guess that's what I would suggest. It's a condition for us to be here and update you and provide the updated plan. So we're complying with our existing order.
I just want to make sure the record's clear that there's a supplemental set of plans that we asked for and that we, in fact, are now part of the hearing. So I think I'll move that we accept these plans as a modification to the existing order of conditions for the record.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one is 242-1711, 42 Foster Street.
Did,
what about this way?
I think you,
This one?
1713.
Oh, 127 Best Way is
Yeah.
first.
Oh, okay, it's stuck between the continuance, I'm sorry. 242-1713, 127, that's way.
Best way.
Best way.
Anybody here for that?
I think we told him at the last hearing, this was the one waiting for the DEP file number.
Yeah.
They had the large amount of trash in the wetland, which they've since said will be cleaned up. The plan is modified I don't believe, they were missing one of the lines. I think it was the 25. And just in writing the order of conditions, you know, if we're going to have a monument at the 25, it's probably easier if it's shown on the plan. I also, had them bring the erosion controls all the way to the edge of the driveway so that if they're driving off the driveway and into the backyard, that they're covered for the entire stretch of wetland that they'll be, you know, disturbing along. And then they added a stockpile location.
So you ready to close?
Yep.
Motion?
Move that we close and issue in 21 days.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Now we're gonna do 242, 17, 11, 42 Foster Street.
242 Frost.
So this one was on the agenda last time, but we just had a continuance, so this is the first time you're actually seeing it. Did you?
Do you have the abutters list?
That's why I was looking for the cards.
I have the cards,
No,
I believe
I'm more interested in the abutters list.
I did not.
I may be an
I
abutter to
did
this.
not
I
see
need to
one
know
of
if I
them.
am.
I thought you would be.
If I am, I'll gladly abstain.
But I, for some reason, I want to say I already checked and you weren't, but we can.
It may not necessarily be under my name. It may be
Alright.
under a realty trust.
Here's the list, and, oh, yep, 72 you are.
So, yeah, well, I've known my
You know your
neighbors.
way.
I know my neighbors.
We need a weekly
So I will abstain. I'll just sit here quietly, like a potted plant.
Can you do that?
We're gonna find out.
I'm sure you can.
I did
all
note
right.
that the Board of Health says you are not approved. There's a comment letter, and so you'll be making some plan revisions likely?
Yes, I can address it.
Okay.
during the hearing.
Thank you.
They're minor, mostly. So my name is TJ Melvin. I'm with Christensen and Sergi, here on behalf of the applicant Phil D'Antonio for the project at 242 Foster. So it's an existing house, with a failed septic system. Just looking to upgrade this system in order to pass the Title V inspection. There isn't much room on the site to place the septic system. Along the left side, as you're looking at the house, is a driveway. It's a pretty steep slope down. It's still within the buffer zone as well. Front yard, there's a steep slope and then a 4-foot retaining wall, about 26 feet from the face of that wall to the foundation. Kind of eliminates anything in the front outside of the 75-foot or even the 100. Really the only options along the right side of the house. Try to keep everything outside of the 50-foot. There's no grading proposed within the 50-foot. Septic system is within the 75. I tried to minimize grading as much as I could. I used alternative systems, breakout protection barriers, held as close to the house as I could. So this magenta line here represents the border benefit wetland. The red line represents 25, blue is the 50, and the green is the 100-foot. So the septic system is proposed in this area along the base of the slope, kind of just in a flat, already disturbed area. And as Jennifer had mentioned, we did get comments from the Board of Health. They're just in regards to different waivers for offset from groundwater to the inlets of the septic tank and pump chamber. Just a kind of a difference of the assessor had it as a 4-bedroom, it's a 3-bedroom. Minor clerical things like that. Nothing's really changed. We shifted the pump chamber over a foot. But other than that, nothing has changed with the system. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Joe?
So just a sequence. Board of Health made recommendations. This plan shows those recommendations, but they have not yet approved it?
Yes, I have to resubmit the plan to Board of Health. Like I said, nothing changed. I moved the pump chamber a foot away from the house, not close to the wetland. Nothing changed with the footprint. It's local upgrade approvals that they wanted me to request, showing buoyancy calculations for the pump chamber.
So I think it's just a matter of procedure, just if there might be changes to the plan, the same end result might be that we close, keep it open, close and issue at the next meeting, or if we close, we still issue at the next meeting. So I think it would be the same end result. It gives you the opportunity to go back to Board of Health, and should there be any changes, then at least we can get that plan for the record.
Okay.
But I don't think I have any technical questions. I mean, it's not an ideal situation, but neither is a failed septic system.
Yeah, like I said, thought about this one for a while. It's not much room out there, so.
I'm all set.
There is a shed located at the rear of the property that's in the 25 at the top of a very steep retaining wall that goes down. It's been there historically for a very long time.
You said you recommended having it removed.
No, they're removing another shed, not that one.
Yeah, there's a.
Oh, they're moving that one?
Yeah.
It's stuff that's been there pre-local bylaw, I mean, we're not about.
Yeah, it's pretty much built into the embankment almost.
It's fallen down yet?
No, it's actually in pretty good shape.
Excellent.
A little overgrown, maybe.
It's all set.
No?
It's one.
I'm abstaining.
Okay, well, that's right. Just a question, you're gonna, your construction access and your stockpiling, what is that gonna be?
So construction access would be likely, well, the only way to get down there is through the driveway, through the front yard. Stockpiling will have to be along the front of the house. It's gonna be tight. I mean, the hay bales would be right along the 50-foot. So there's no reason it should be any closer than that. There is a little flat area through here, but likely would have to be in the front yard. But like I said, I tried to minimize as much as I could to reduce any fill that really had to be brought in. I took a reduction to groundwater, pretty much did everything I could to make this work.
Is the existing system in the same location?
No, the existing system is actually closer, well, according to the owner, it's closer. Board of Health has no records on it. But he said the existing system is through here.
Is there any work with physically abandoning that's going to be required?
No, it should
Just
be.
simply disconnect?
Yep. Unless we encounter that it's closer, but like I said, the Board of Health had no, this is from probably the early 60s, I think this was built, so.
Deb?
What are your plans for the brush dumping below the existing retaining wall?
I had mentioned that there is some dumping below the wall, but it's probably largely inaccessible at this point. I don't see them making a bigger mess or doing any damage to that wall. I was saying I just wanted you to know it was out there. It's more like big sticks and things thrown. I almost tried to get down it to get to the wetland, and it's sort of not a safe thing to do, but I also, as long as there's, I guess I would propose wetland markers and just try to discourage any further dumping down there.
But no cleaning up, just leave it there.
I don't really, I think
Just snag habitat probably, right?
yeah, it actually probably is. It's not the kind of dumping that we're, like the big old grass pile kind of thing. It's more like branches, and it just makes it pretty thick and you can't get into the wetland, so that's probably a good thing too.
So you just won't add to it then?
No, there's no intention of it. But like Jennifer said, it's, even when I was soil testing, I tried to get down to the wet flags. I just guessed, made sure I was even further than I needed to be.
The flags were down there though. I don't know how Norse got there, but they did.
Thank you.
Doug?
No questions.
Motion?
We're gonna just continue, right, to leave it open for any
For the
further
Board of
comments?
Health.
When is the next Board of Health meeting?
I don't believe it has to go to a Board of Health meeting, just,
Administrative approval?
I believe so. That's what, when I was talking to Isaac from Mill River, that's how he had interpreted it, so.
Probably.
Okay, so one continuous for 2 weeks is enough.
Should.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jen, remember I abstained.
Yep.
Thank you.
Abstention. Next one is 242, no DEP number 127, Tucker Farm Road.
Do you have your mailings, Mr. O'Neill?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Not sure which goes with which. Is that the?
See, you can have this back.
Okay.
I gave your mom one, that's why.
Yeah, that's it.
So I guess it's septic system night because this is another replacement.
It's a small plan, I can hardly see it.
Did you bring me new copies, hard copies of this plan?
No.
Because you have the 25 and the 50 on here, but I don't have a copy of this yet, correct?
No, I sent them electronically to you.
Okay, so that's, if you notice, that plan probably doesn't have the 25 and the 50 on it, or does it? It does? So I just got this revised plan today.
Yeah, this calls out the setbacks.
Okay. Obviously, we'll be continuing, but this doesn't. I did review the wetland line. Everything that shows on the plan is accurate. There was one flag, but there's no sense changing it because they don't even represent it on the plan that's in the backyard. You know, the system's in the front. It's obviously partially within the 50-foot no-build zone. But I'll let the applicant present to you and.
Okay, my name is Michael O'Neill. I'm the engineer that prepared the plan. The address is 127 Tucker Farm Road. This is a replacement of an existing septic system at Field Title 5. The lot has got wetlands around somewhat in a horseshoe shape, so the only place to locate it would be up front. What we're doing is replacing it in practically the same location as the existing system. All of the material that is above in the system, including the biomass, is going to be removed and taken off the project. There's about 3 feet of unsuitable clay fill material, probably was part of the reason that the existing system failed. So the only stockpiling would be whatever topsoil and subsoil is going to be stripped off. My plan shows here the delineation of the bordering vegetative wetlands in green, and this is the 100-foot buffer. So essentially, all of the work is going to take place here. What I've colored up here in gray is the existing driveway. The water service comes down on the left side of the property. There's a gas line coming down on the right side of the property. So we're very limited to where it is that it can be placed. So we're essentially replacing the existing system in its present location. There is no curving on Tucker Farm Road, and the drainage goes down into a drainage easement that's on the left-hand side of the property.
So I'm sorry, there's an extra line on this plan. The system's not in the
There's a
50.
75-foot.
That we don't have, there is no 75-foot in North Andover
Right.
unless you have a vernal pool, which you don't. This lot does have a certificate of compliance. So you should take that 75 off the plan because it's somewhat deceiving to them that it's in a subzone that it's not, I would say.
Joe?
This subdivision was one of the first ones, maybe not the whole subdivision, some of the lots when I first came aboard. 25 years ago thereabouts. And I'm not sure if it's this lot. But I guess my point is that it was clearly subject to the bylaw, so there's a lot of it seems like there's a lot of violations out there beyond just the septic system itself. Again, the septic system is a failed system. It always makes sense to replace it. It's good for the wetland, regardless of what waivers we ultimately need to grant, so long as the Board of Health is satisfied with them. But I guess I'm more concerned with, the activity that's gone on out there, and one, stop it, and two, it sounds like some of it needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah, I've made them aware that the wetlands are full of trash. You have photos. I don't, that's a lot of stuff out there over the years, but, I would, like the last one we just approved, I would just recommend that it be cleaned up prior to issuance of a certificate of compliance. Or we could issue a separate enforcement order requiring it.
Why can't it be a pre-construction condition? Because nobody is obligated to come in for a certificate of compliance. But if they want to start the construction, they can clean it up ahead of time.
I think the owners are both here, and I think they would prefer to have that.
Pre-construction.
Obviously, they can use the same contractor who's going to do the work
Okay.
to pre-clean or remove. I know we've forwarded to them the pictures of what the violations are.
That sounds good to me.
So similar to the last filing is still waiting Board of Health approval, and they've got
Indeed.
shopping, they have a laundry list of items to.
This doesn't have a DEP file number either.
Yeah, I'd like to address the Board of Health comments. There are no comments in there that are going to affect the location, both vertically and horizontally, of the system, the components, or the size. Most of them are cosmetic comments that they've given to us. I don't see that anything is going to change the location of where we've sited the system right now.
So without the DEP file number, it's the same end result. We continue tonight, you'll still get a decision at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Or
I don't know what happened
if
with
we
DEP.
close tonight, you get a decision at the next meeting, so.
But I did, the check was processed by them on the 17th of July.
You're not alone.
And
No, they
I
received it
tried-
on the 17th of July, it says.
On my bank statement, I have a copy of it here.
Of it
They
clearing?
processed it, they cleared it on the 17th of July.
Because that's when DEP posted it, but it just says under review and waiting for check to clear.
Waiting for a check to clear, and that's been,
That wouldn't be the first
Did
time.
you, it's certainly not the first time, but did you send them a copy of the canceled check, or?
I haven't had the time really, it's just, I've been calling Jim Freely to try to see if I could have gotten a DEP file number for tonight.
I have no substantive questions. And you've got 2 weeks later, got the Board of Health give a final approval, and we should be good to go the next meeting.
So are you asking me to write it as a pre-construction condition or require it?
My opinion would be to either make it a pre-construction condition or allow them to start now by giving them an enforcement order, whatever's better for them, to let them get the site ready. Because DEP can't get their act together, we shouldn't make them hold if they can get it done. It's up. Is that what I'm taking from you?
Yes, or at the time before the start of construction, the
Let them-
contractor, let
yeah.
him, I think there's just about 6 or 7
He's given
objects.
time to do the clean.
Oh, there's way more than 6 or 7 objects. There's got to be
So
dozens.
you can give the list. You want to just what's better?
So pre-construction meeting,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
will lay out what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, no machinery can go in there. I mean, this is
So pre-construction or enforcement, whatever's better.
dense vegetation along a
Pre-construction.
steep slope,
Or is it right to the order?
so
Okay.
someone's going to have to go down in there and get it out.
So you'd have to have a pre-construction meeting and lay it out.
Okay.
'Cause it sounds like they want to get it done, so.
So as part of an EO or as part of the order?
Part of the order, I think, because I believe that then you, at the very end, you do want the certificate of compliance to clear title.
They get 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks to clean it up.
Well, then that's saying
Then
two
that's-
opposite
Yeah,
things.
see,
That if you want them to go in there now and start the cleanup, then it's got to be an EO. There's no other way to do it.
Hold on, let's find out what's better. Let's check the clients.
Thank you.
They can go and start digging.
So Joe wants to pre-construction to the order, but let's...
Yeah, the owners would prefer to have their contractor who's going to install the system at the beginning of the start of construction to go in and take care of all of the issues.
All right, so we'll just make it a pre-construction.
Pre-construction, okay.
Okay. That sounds good.
All right, so you're gonna write it up.
I'll have it for the next meeting.
All right, so we have to continue on it.
Yep.
So we got 2 weeks.
So moved.
Doug, you have any questions?
No?
Motion?
Did we-
I mean,
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one is 242-1714, 865 Johnson Street.
So if you recall, you saw the site not long ago under an ORAD. You approved that wetland line, and now before you are 2 of what will be 4 developed lots on the site. These 2 are within your jurisdiction. Do you have your proof of mailing? Thank you.
I don't think I have this one. Oh, is that what it is? Yeah.
You also have in front of you a restoration plan. If you recall, there was a historic dump area out there that's now densely vegetated with knotweed, and they propose to both clear out the area, restore it, and deal with the knotweed in the plan in front of you. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Dufresne.
My name is Bill Dufresne with Merrimack Engineering. I'm here representing Carol Reska, the owner of the property, and her son Arthur Reska, the applicant of the project. They're both here with us tonight. This project, by address, is currently known as 865 Johnson Street. It was, however, subdivided by way of an A&R plan with the planning board last October into 4 different building lots. That plan was recorded at the Registry of Deeds. So the 2 lots in question tonight are known as Lot 1A and 1B. They both front on Mill Road. As Jennifer mentioned, this property was before you back in January and February with an ANRAD, and a resource area delineation was granted on this property. So the wetland delineation has already been established. It was performed by Leah Besbanes of Besbanes Associates. The 2 lots that fall into the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, 1A and 1B, they are 1.0 and 1.3 acres respectively. We're proposing 2 single-family homes, 1 on each lot. Lot 1A, approximately 50% of the building envelope is within the 100-foot buffer zone in a portion of the driveway. On Lot 1B, about 1/3 of the garage footprint only is within the buffer zone, and a small portion of the driveway. With exception to that, all utilities, on-site septic systems, water services are all in the front of the lot and outside the buffer zone. In designing this, we did the best we could to separate all the work from the wetlands as far as possible. In most cases, no work's being done even within 50 feet of the wetlands, with exception to both the foundation drains. In order to daylight, to get the pitch and get them to daylight at the right elevation, had to protrude into the 50 to 25-foot zone. So aside from that, there's very little work done even in that 50 to 25 zone. So we have an erosion control proposed at that limit of work. Roof infiltration drains are proposed for both homes. We have soil stockpile areas located on both sites outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. And that's essentially the project.
Joe?
So I see the limit of work being the erosion controls, which is great for the construction, but I think some sort of monumentation mounted on trees where it's not disturbed area, mounted on trees, where the 25-foot is for forever.
Oh, I think on this lot, it should be, as you've required on all new construction on new lots, should be a permanent barrier. That's, to be consistent with decisions you just recently had on Hillside and 271 Stevens Street.
I guess my point on that is this wooded area in the backyards, or is it
I don't know,
or
they
is it
should
open?
have a limit of vegetation on here. I would say the majority of it is not wooded because it's open field now. If you look at, I'm sorry, I didn't give you the.
Okay,
Yeah, most of it, Joe, is a wet meadow, so it is mostly field.
okay,
Oh, it's
I would
not a wet meadow. Your meadow's not wet. You wouldn't want it to be either.
yeah.
The predominance of the vegetation is that Japanese
So it's not
knotweed.
wooded, so,
That's really
so it
taken
can be a
over.
physical.
Yeah, they
so-
can do a physical barrier. But you should have your limit of,
We fully expected that, and frankly, I don't know what the barrier of choice is these days. I haven't been before the commission in some time, so we expect, some form of permanent demarcation of that no disturb zone.
Okay. Better understanding of the vegetation out there, yeah, so not just monumentation with markers, but a physical barrier.
yeah, I mean, there is some wooded area off to one
To
side.
the right, to the drainage easement side.
So it would help to have both the limit of clearing, of
Limited trees. and-
limit of trees and and then we'll be able to get a better sense of where you could put a 2x2 stone wall as the commission generally requires.
Understood.
That's all I have.
I'm good for right now.
Yep.
Jen, wanted to know about the land disturbance permit.
So that is not our jurisdiction, but the Board of Health did receive applications for 4 individual septic systems on 4 individual lots that result in more than an acre of disturbance. Regardless of whether the lots are individual, sold to separate owners, you cannot segregate a project. If it's more than an acre of disturbance proposed, and there are 4 plans in front of the Board of Health for septic systems, and it should trigger a land disturbance permit. We've had this discussion before. It's not our,
Through stormwater.
right.
Right.
So, I mean, and a lot of that, it should be about site management, construction phasing, those sorts of things. My concern for these 2 lots, it would be tracking onto Mill Road, so I would suggest that you add a detail for construction entrances during construction.
Okay, and if dewatering needs to be done, you would have that detail as well?
We can do that as well.
That's it for me.
That-
No questions.
We continue on, Jen? We condition it.
Let me just,
So we didn't talk about the historic dumping. So that is going to be beyond the
Yeah.
limit of disturbance.
you can probably,
So what, as part of the resource area delineation approval, and something that I wasn't aware of when I filed the notice of intent originally, Jen brought it to my attention, that was a condition of that either a notice of intent be filed for the removal of that debris and/or as part of this filing. So I added that. Leah Besbanes created a restoration plan and report detailing the dealing of the knotwood and removal of the debris. So
what's
that's,
the timing on that, though? Would you propose to do that before the construction, or?
what's
during,
the
or-
commission's wishes on that? Is that something you want to see done initially,
I mean, I
similarly
would
to the
say if you
last
could,
project?
if you could get it, done sooner rather than later, you have the chance of getting it growing, dealing with the knotweed this season.
We
You
don't
don't
have
want
any
it to be the
objection to
thing
doing
that,
it anyway.
I guess once you have houses there and, potentially occupied, you're not gonna wanna be going back there and digging
Oh,
the
absolutely
place
not.
up.
No, it's going to be done concurrent with this project. Whether you want it done at the onset of the project or before we come in for certificate of compliance, I
I
guess
would
is
say
what we
it's
should
best done
discuss.
at the beginning.
I like pre-construction.
Pre-construction.
I like it. It works.
Yep.
Let them get it done.
I mean,
And you reviewed the proposal and
Yeah, Leah tweaked it because I was a little confused about the timing of the spraying, et cetera. I believe spraying there are different times of year you can do it. You really don't want it to go to seed, which it will by late August, so.
you want it to go to flower while it's sending energy to the roots to get it. And you got to do it 2 or 3
Yeah, it's like,
years in a row.
she does say that it would have to be done probably more than once. And she doesn't recommend planting until after it's been sprayed. So she has her sequence in there. You can discuss the timing with her on that. I would say on this one, if, you get us a revised plan, I'll draft for the next meeting and we'll plan to review it all then.
Is any of that work in resource area, or is it all?
Yeah, some of it is just right on the edge. I mean, once they clear it out, it will be resource area. Leah's plantings are wetland plants along that entire area. So, and it's all, I would say it's largely within the 25. So it'll basically be a new buffer zone.
Okay.
Right there, yeah, that's okay. That'll help. That'll help it.
You all set, you guys all set? On one of the pages of area fill, it's small, I can't read. How big of a fill is it?
That's historic fill, right?
Yeah, that's the historic
That's
pile.
the area, that's the dump. Nice way to say it, that's the old dump.
Oh, area fill. Okay.
It's fill, it's debris, it's a lot of different, there's some pipes, there's this fiberglass pipes, I don't even know what they are, 20-foot pipes, there's all kinds of different debris. There is some actual filling where there's some construction debris that had a little fill over it, but in general, it's debris spread out over a wide area, and
Okay, because it's not on this, it's not on your main plan, it's just on Leah's plan. That's why I was confused. Okay. Wait, so what do we need?
Move it, continue to 4/2/17/14 to the next meeting.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That's unanimous.
thank you.
The next one's the enforcement order.
Yeah, so this was, you actually granted him an extension earlier, and he spoke to some, different people about things he could do out there. But when I met with him on site, he was kind of talking about rebuilding in place on the site. Yeah, there was that wooden retaining wall that someone had filled behind, basically, and it looked like it might be able to kind of fall over into the existing wetland. So when I met out there, I told him that there wouldn't be any reconstruction of that in place, in kind, under an enforcement order. So he basically wants some more time he'll need to engage either an engineer to construct a new wall farther away from the wetland and restore adjacent to it, or to grade, to pull out the wall and grade the material back. I think they were new homeowners.
Are we
They had-
setting a clock that's gonna start ticking down? Is that what you're asking us to do? Seems like we shouldn't just let them
He can't go on
think about
forever.
it much longer, yeah.
Right, so I'd say this is the last continuance. He's aiming to get it done in less than the 3 months, but I don't think he really had an idea of, this is gonna take some plans. It may not take a full-blown survey plan, but he's gonna have to have some good depiction of what's out there and what he plans to do. I mean, we've seen some good pullbacks on sites that have done, sketch plans. If he has a wetland delineation, all he needs is really someone to show the grading. There are several contractors in town who could do that for him, as well as an engineer if he's gonna propose a wall, but
We should see what his plan of attack is before we get the enforcement order.
we've already issued the enforcement order. You're just basically extending it, giving him 3 more months to get the plan in place.
So you
Just
said that
for
the vulnerability is the wall toppling and what's behind it going into the resource area. I mean, not into buffer zone, not in,
When you had last seen it, it was basically someone had put a landscape retaining wall right next to the wetland and filled another 10 to 15 feet of the yard, depending on where in the yard you look, up to that wall to make a nice flat level space. That wall was never constructed with any material behind it or any thought to eventually the fact that that wood was gonna rot. And so some of the wood had dropped off into the wetland when we looked at it, and it was sort of leaning forward. I was out there, nothing's fallen over, but he needs a solution. It's not gonna,
well, the reason why I ask is, another 3 months, kicks you into the rainy season. This type of work ought to be done like now. It's just, you're waiting till September or later is not optimal. but when?
Right.
Can't get the guy off the dime here.
Yeah, I guess, you know, you met them last time, you were sympathetic because they had basically just bought a violation and had no idea what they had gotten themselves into. They have young kids, they're going to lose a good portion of the backyard. I think they're trying to be thoughtful about it, but they really just need to, I told them they need to hire someone. This isn't something they're going to design on their own or build on their own or anything like that.
It's been out there for a while, so.
I'd like clarification.
Another 3 months
In the,
isn't going to get better.
No.
But it's not going to follow up with that either.
Well, if it falls over, he's gonna know about it.
okay, it says,
Okay.
it says
Gonna create
request
more
to
of a
continue
monster.
September 27th, but then in the notes it says a 3-month continuance, and that would bring it to October 27th.
Oh, Donna must have put that on there because mine doesn't say that. I don't know where she got September. Maybe she thought 3 meetings, or maybe she thought 3 months from the continuation date the last time you heard it. I don't know, but she put that on there, not me.
So what do you wanna give it to, October?
It's up to you. Whatever you decide, I'll relay to him that he needs to get it done. If you want it done by the end of the second meeting in September, I'll tell him he has to have it done. That's 2 months.
How did we find out about this?
He came in for a small project to replace a rotted deck.
That's right. Let's work with him. Let's work with him. Let's give him the 3 months.
October.
We'll go to 3 months.
Yep.
Okay.
He seemed comfortable
But
with
keep
that
in mind-
when you talk to him.
Yeah, I think they find it a little overwhelming, but they know they've got to do it. It's not going away.
Well, I mean, it's gonna fail anyways. Well, it is at some point.
But taking into account Joe's statement that it is going to be the rainy season, and
Well, they might not be able to do I mean, if they have a plan and they permit it and they have to do it next year, I think that would probably be fine with them. Again, it's going to be, there's a cost
If it was
associated
an
with this.
imminent failure, a week he happened to notice something egregious that we, different animal, but the fact that we happened upon it by their own honesty in filing for another project, I'm okay to give them the time. It doesn't sound as vulnerable as I first thought.
Motion to continue the EO till
Second October meeting.
2nd October.
so
meeting.
moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, that's unanimous. All right,
Our Hay Meadow, we continued the OOC, so there was no sense coming for the certificate of compliance.
for Hay Meadow.
Right, it's the same plan, basically.
Okay, the other ones are still the same, right?
Move that we continue with request for compliance.
All
Second.
right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Katuitt Street, I was out there today, we're getting a revised plan. We needed to there was maintenance that needed to be done out there, as well as a deck that showed up on the plan that is no longer there, so, I don't know. Just, we're getting a revised
It's on
plan.
the plan and no longer.
On the
there.
as-built plan.
So should we continue, Jen?
Yes, we should continue.
Continue.
Second.
To the next one.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1595. COC request for 1661 Great Pond Road.
So you have the as-built in front of you, as well as the list of discrepancies. The majority of the discrepancies are outside of the buffer zone. The majority of this was driveway and stormwater management along that driveway, across the street from Lake Chigwick, and next to the raised pond pump station is where this house sits. The driveway is slightly farther away from the raised pond pump station than was proposed. I don't know that that really matters one way or another, because it's not really associated with the wetland's across the street. And the driveways, there's about 60 more square feet of impervious area, but the swale is slightly larger than was proposed as well. So I think in the end it all,
Substantially in compliance, right?
substantially in compliance.
Well, we have to remind the applicant, Jen,
Yep.
that this won't be tolerated, you know. I know the crushed stone beyond the driveway is impervious, but, you know, that's not there. The
The crushed
stairway,
stone beyond, at the end of the driveway?
that's what it says, right?
Yeah, but it's not within our jurisdiction, so.
It's not within our jurisdiction, then we shouldn't
Oh,
be
it's not in
considering
our
it.
jurisdiction?
No, the only thing that's in our jurisdiction, if you look at the lines, is down at the road.
Yeah,
So none of the, all of the changes were outside the 100?
Yeah, and I
You
do,
just shifted the driveway location a little bit.
Right.
Made the swale a little bit bigger, and those are okay.
right. All the changes that went on behind the house, except for the gravel at the end of the driveway, were brought to us. The decks, I have a plan sketched in the thing, and it's outside of jurisdiction, so it wasn't any kind of
then I don't
mod with
care.
us.
I just don't want people getting a bad habit of
Yeah.
changing things and then tell us after.
Nope, didn't happen.
All right, very
Although the
good.
driveway shift did, but I don't really see that as being overly consequential.
Okay. Joe, any questions?
None.
Al?
None.
Deb?
All set.
Yeah, Doug? Motion?
That we grant certificate of compliance for 242-1595.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
I will hold that one. I forgot to, I sent Kale out at like 4:15 today because I forgot to check on the erosion control, because this is those two lots that he has side by side, but he said he'll pull it tomorrow, so
Okay.
I won't release until EC.
Next one is 242-461, that's an old one. PCOC request for 295 Candlestick Road.
So this one has a COC for the actual house, so this is a release from the roadway. And there is a wetland on the site, and that's why it has the other order of conditions, but as far as the roadway
This
goes,
is just administrative.
it's just,
Clear.
yeah.
Move that we grant a partial certificate of compliance for 242-461.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is a PCOC request, 242-683, 88 Whalen Circle.
Again, Kale did a site visit. The lot's non-jurisdictional, so this is at the top of the hill.
Move that we grant a partial certificate of compliance, 242-683 for lot 39.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is right of first refusal, 0 Salem Street, and 0 where Salem Street?
I actually left this one on my desk, because I was looking at it just before we came. You don't, this is nothing you need to vote on right now, but this is the field that's on the corner of, what is it, Marble Ridge in
Marble Ridge.
Salem. Thank you. He was here for the COC.
Okay.
So, the planning board heard it last night. I think they'll explore their options for, it is in watershed, it does have wetlands. There is,
What property is this?
this is the one, the Hart, Mary Hart property.
Okay, so before you,
Well, there is, let me just
The-
say, because I've read the purchase and sale, they propose to, the buyers propose to put a 15-year agricultural restriction on it, so that for the next 15 years,
well,
They-
the land's under 61A now.
but that's going to, they're going to let that lapse.
Well, the new owners are in the 61A business. They're not going to put it in 61A?
So that's what town council is going to try to confirm with the owners, so that,
I mean, I know for a fact that the new owners
right.
intend to keep this property under 61A. They're in the agricultural,
My concern is
Equine
when you,
business.
right, equine is not 61A. The keeping of horses does not get you an agricultural exemption. The production of hay or other,
they will.
so, yes,
yeah.
so, but what we want to make sure is that if we give up our right of first refusal this time, that A, there's an assurance that there will, the property will continue in 61A, and that we'll have the opportunity, let's say at the end of this 15 year.
Can I just offer a comment?
Sure.
When property is conveyed and title is transferred, and the property's under 61A with the seller, and the buyer intends to continue it under 61A, there is no right of first refusal, because there is no waiver of the 61A. I purchased parcels of land from Earl Foster that were under 61A for over 100 years, and it was a seamless transition. There was no right of first refusal. There was no need for any of that to take place. because the seller and the buyer both kept it under 61A.
He
I
wasn't
don't,
penalized
So we
for that sale
received,
either.
that's correct.
Again, we're
There's
not-
no penalty because, and there was no tax rollback because there was no removing it from
right,
61A.
but we're not initiating this. They've informed us that they're exercising
Who,
the sellers.
the sellers are just doing their diligence. Somebody
They've
at the-
notified every-
Somebody at the town level should understand
Well,
that
that's
this is not a removal of 61A.
I've
This is
asked all those
ridiculous.
questions, and we're looking for clarification. What I didn't want you to hear was that if this was on the planning board agenda last night, that I'm just putting it in front of you to let you know. I'll scan in the documents tomorrow, and any correspondence forthcoming, I'll let you know about.
I'm going to stay out of it. I'm just saying, this is all unnecessary.
That was my
This is
question.
all
is
unnecessary.
If it gets purchased and there's an agricultural restriction ongoing, why would we exercise our option
That's-
now when we would have our option
You're going to
down the
have it
road?
at the end of whatever the next buyer does. It's
Right.
not,
But when lawyers serve you letters and tell you you have 120 days, you start asking more questions. So
Maybe,
I think they're in
I
error.
heard something
Sorry.
say that there was some pledge to keep it in for another 15 years. Maybe because there's a sunset on it,
But there
maybe
is no-
that changes the rules.
But there is no sunset. There is absolutely no sunset, and there's no
I'm
obligation.
no lawyer, and I'm just going to,
There's no obligation. If I buy land and I put it under current use, I apply for a current use assessment, and I actively work the land pursuant to that current use assessment, I don't have to give you any number of years. I have to renew every 12 months. A 61A is renewable by the 1st of October of every single year. It's not automatic.
But if
So
they-
the first year I fail to renew, it's extinguished, and now I owe the back taxes. It extinguishes when you fail to file the application.
Right,
It's
but when you
current-
extinguish it and you pay the back taxes, 5 years from now, you turn around and sell that, we no longer have a right of first refusal.
Correct.
Once the back taxes are paid, the town has satisfied their lien. The lien is satisfied with the payment of the taxes. What I'm saying is, there's no extinguishing of the 61A because they're not taking it out of 61A.
it says in the current purchase and sale that they will let it lapse. Just details.
Well,
So-
somebody,
Well,
Lawyers.
like you say, it's got nothing to do with us.
it's just, I understand that it's got nothing to do with us, but it's unnecessary. It's an exercise that's just unnecessary.
So what are they asking us to do? Is it
I
just an FYI?
The letter came to you, so I'm required to notify you, because we're going to be asked to
So then
provide.
the answer is that, we're satisfied that the use will be continued in agriculture, and that we would wish to be considered, wish to preserve our right of first refusal in the future.
Well, I
When
think
the project
we need to be
completes.
satisfied that it is going to continue.
All right, first of all, the first point that needs to be understood is, it's under 61A right now.
Currently, yes.
Right now. And it's not out of 61A by virtue of the sale.
We've been notified by the owners of their intention to let it lapse,
Which owners? The current
the
owners?
current owners.
Yeah, they're telling you they're going to let it lapse, meaning they are not going to be the people renewing it by October 1st. There will be someone new that holds title to the land. That's what they're telling you.
That's not clear in what's been given to us,
Oh,
so.
good
It's up
God
for
almighty.
sale. It may not sell by October 1st.
This is
No,
just legal posturing.
I just
The
want
reality is,
the reason I know.
no, we have the first refusal, right of first refusal. There is no sale until we decline to buy it, right?
That may be-
If we decline to buy it, then the sale goes through, and they can do what the hell they want at that
So
point.
this particular piece of land that we're talking about, for the record, I harvest the hay off this property, and I have for the past 30 years. Prior to me harvesting hay off it, the owner, Arnold Stork, raised cattle and harvested hay, and before him, his father, Wright Stork, farmed this land. It's been in agricultural use for 200 years. I was notified by the owners that they're going to sell it to one of their neighbors who already has an agricultural concern ongoing. Knowing the current owner, as I do, when he says they're going to let it, what he's trying to say to you is he won't be renewing. Because he won't own it anymore.
Again, it's a
That's
very
all he's
official
saying
letter
to
we
you.
got from lawyers. That's all I'm going to say.
Let's involve more lawyers and really clear it up.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just throw more lawyers at it.
let's just throw some more
And
lawyers.
it's going to clear
When
it
they
up.
send me the
Good
letter
God
that says
almighty,
they're
huh?
exercising
Good.
their right of first refusal,
Gonna
I have to
add
pass
more
it on to you.
confusion.
Oh, man.
All right, decision,
We have a decision.
242-1713, that's way.
So just, well, we can go through this, but I forgot to mention in the hearing that this has an open order of conditions.
What are we talking about?
Best Way, the septic system.
Ah,
They're the
yes.
only lot on that.
yes.
This is a common drive that comes off of Best Way and ends in a cul-de-sac. It's a very interesting, there's actually a waiver of the common drive rule to have 4 lots, 33A through 37A are on this common drive. Which is impossible to do. Which is impossible to do, but the other
Best
3,
way,
Unless you built the road in 1983,
right.
which is when the road was built,
right.
in 1983.
Those things aside, all 3 of the other houses on this have a partial certificate of compliance, and this owner does not. So I've written into the condition that this owner must get his PCOC in order to get his full COC.
So he just has to apply for it, right?
Right.
I mean, it shouldn't be a problem, right?
So that's condition number 31. Condition number 35, so I did put in disposed of properly prior to the start of construction. My understanding is he may already be going in by hand to remove that material. I don't think, if you're not using machinery, I don't think anybody thinks required. So there is, there's wattle only proposed as erosion control, which I think is fine because the site's relatively flat because it's all a fill slope. So as long as they're at the top, I don't see the need for any. The stockpile location is out towards the 100. $1,500 bond. They need to mark that 25, that's why we got that on the plan.
Can I ask you a question about condition 46? When the wattle is applied to the site, do they have to anchor it down? Is it required to be anchored?
So
like
there, it depends on the kind. There is one out there, that big, thick, heavy bark mulch one that sits independent of itself. It's encased in almost like
Burlap.
yeah, not burlap. It's they're encased. They're either orange or green, but it's encased in almost like siltation fence material that encases the bark mulch. It's very heavy. There's no move in it. They have to rip them open and scoop up the materials after. Those don't get anchored. The ones in the burlap and everything else, I don't allow them to use just the straw anymore because it doesn't. They're just a mess. So these are bigger things, but the one in the burlap does get staked.
The reason I ask is when we used to condition hay bales and silt fence, the silt fence would get dug and anchored. Trenched. And then the bales would sit on their edge on top of the trenching, and they'd be staked in, 2 stakes per bale, which was a tremendous way to stop soil migration. It really worked. It absolutely worked.
And still on every project here.
I can't imagine a little 12-inch wattle laying on the ground stopping anything.
Right. They do when the sites are flat and there isn't.
The sites
That's the only place to allow it.
So the sites are flat. There's nothing
Right. There's
moving
nothing
anyway.
rolling off this site.
But
and
that's all we're
So
allowing.
it's
That's all
almost
we're
to a point
allowed.
where you don't even need it.
We do more as a limit of work than anything because this is right at the top of that. I don't know how
I
this
get
site
it.
was built, but this site they cut into the hill and basically
Yep.
filled the site with it.
Yeah.
So it makes it a nice flat playing field on which you can just put the sock along the edge of the limit of work. Anything with a slope, we have always required silt fence and hay bales.
Fencing, okay.
Or silt fence and a wattle, but if the site's not too steep, but.
Okay, thank you for your answer on that.
Any questions? Motion?
We didn't amend anything, did we?
There were no amendments.
No, I didn't get through the rest of it, but I think we,
I'll move it. I'll move that we issue 2421713 as drafted.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?